Sunday, and thank you for joining me in completing the finishing touches of our mandala. I'm Myhre, and this is part 9 of Mandala Unplugged. You guys, I can't believe that this project is coming to a close. It feels like a good book that is ending way too soon. I have so enjoyed cyber meeting you, interacting with you, and stitching along with you. It has been so rewarding for me to see all the creativity and the colors and the textures come through, and to see you guys enjoying some hand stitching. So thank you so much for sticking with me and stitching along with me, and it's just been such a great experience. So with that, let's get to it. Let's finish this guy off. Get some beads, your flosses, your embroidery threads, and let's just put a few finishing details on this mandala and call it good. So the lotus, everybody's lotus came out a little differently. You know, some of them are right on the tip of the leaf. Some of the leaves are coming out from, the bottom leaves are coming out from the oak leaf. And that's totally fine. Mine happened to be, because I wanted that tip to be right here, so I raised my lotus up even more than I did in my first time doing this design. And so now I feel like I want a little stem, just to kind of keep that grounded so it's not looking like it's floating all over. So if your lotus is floating above your oak leaf and you want to do this stem, what I've done is I've grabbed thread A, which is a size 5 pearl cotton, and all I'm going to do is work a stem stitch from here to here. So if you remember what that looks like, is you're just going to come up right on the stitched line that you did before, your quilted line. And then to work the stem stitch, you just need to decide which side you want to always hold your yarn to, and you're always going to hold the yarn on that same side. So you're just going to come down, and remember, I like an 1/8 of an inch stem stitch, so for the first time I'm going to go 1/4 of an inch, have the needle coming towards the place where it's exiting out of on the fabric, holding my yarn to that same side. And now 1/8 of an inch away, I'm going to insert the needle, and I'm not through the back, just through the top and the batting, and then come out the place where I inserted it the last time. And it's very simple. I'm just working right up to the bottom of the leaf, and then I'm just going to stop it there. And you just need about a yard maybe of thread to do this. You don't need a lot. It's probably going to take you to the end of thread A if you got a kit from me. And then just to solidify it, one last stitch, and then just pop that in right at the base, and then weave that into the back. So do that for all 4 lotus stems. Okay, so let's get some sparkle into our lotus tip here. We're going to put 5 beads at the base of the tip. I am using bead D, which is the bead that I originally used in the center of the mandala. Of course, you can use any one you want. This is a size 8 bead. If you're using bigger beads, you may want to just do 3 here, but I do want to do 5 because I want to show you how to actually stitch a strand, a line of beads on fabric. It's really pretty cool. Okay, so just come up at the base. I've got beading thread. You could use poly thread, whatever you want, and put 2 beads on. All right, and then when you hold your thread, push down on the bead so you know that they're at the very base of where you're going into, and then insert the needle and just slide it back to the place where you came out of. You're basically at the base of that first bead. So you're kind of making a little circle. Go through those 2 beads again, and then put 1 bead on. And then you're going to insert the needle where the bead will sit, and go back 2 beads. So in this case, think 1 step forward, 2 steps back, which it kind of feels like that because this takes a little while. But the cool thing is that because you're putting that thread through so many times, you're going to get a nice line here. They're not going to move all over the place. So one more bead. Insert the needle down into where the end of the bead will sit. And then come up at that place 2 beads behind. So remember, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Last bead. Insert the needle where it would go in the tip. Come up 2 beads behind. Go through those 2 again, which solidifies your line. And then just come down and weave it in the back of the piece. Now, if you ever want to do a trail of beads, a line of beads on any garment, this is the way to do that. And that way, even though it takes a little while, it seems like it's maybe overkill, you want to do that because then these beads won't separate, they're stronger on there, and it'll provide a nice line. So you could just draw a line on your fabric and follow it with these beads. It's a very beautiful technique. So now I want to show you how to work a trail of lazy daisies with beads coming from here and going out. I want to do this with the sparkly thread, and so I want to show you a little tip in case you're running low on thread. If you got a kit, you only have so much, or maybe you only had so much to begin with. We know that we have to do this 8 times, right? So it's 2 on each lotus. So I've got 2.5 yards left of this sparkly thread. So what I'm going to do is fold it in half and cut it, and then fold those in half and cut it, and fold those in half and cut it, so that I have 8 equal pieces. Otherwise, if you just kind of dive in and go, you may run out, and that is aggravating. So what's great is with 8 equal pieces, they're all going to end up in the same place, and you're not going to run out. Okay, so what that looks like is I've just folded that in half, clip it. You can even hold them together, fold it in half, put all 4 of those ends together, clip it, and now we need to take these 4 and make them 8. Clip it. Okay, so now we have basically a 12-inch, 13, maybe 14-inch piece of thread that we can do this. So it may just end up stopping right here, and that's fine because it's going to be the same all the way around. So let me show you how to do that, and we will be using the sparkly thread and bead E. Okay, and then just knot the end, and I don't think I want to start right at the line here. I think I'm going to start here and just travel to see if I can see how close I can get to that line. So maybe 1/2 inch away, I'm going to start. Now, your lotus may be all the way scrunched down here, and that's fine. Then just go ahead and start, away and come out. If you don't want too much going on in here, you could even start here and come out this way. It doesn't really matter. Obviously, like I always say, just find a way and stick with it. So I'm actually going to start in the middle between these 2 here. So from the back, come up, work a small little lazy daisy, my most favorite stitch, and sort of stay parallel with this line here. Don't angle it up into it. So your needle is running parallel to where you are in this line here. And maybe make an 1/8 inch. That might be a little bit bigger than that. But try to stay consistent as far as how far you go here. And then all you do before you insert your needle back in is you're going to put a bead on. When you do that, normally what you would do if you weren't doing the beads, you would just put your needle, let's say that bead isn't on there, and to do a traveling lazy daisy stitch, you would just put your needle back into that same place that you're coming out of, keeping your needle parallel here, and then just keep coming out and cruise the line. But because we've got a bead on here, we need to really lock that in place. So what we're going to do is just put the needle in and then come up it's sort of like I know this may be hard to see, but let's see, it's sort of like we're going on the other side of the loop, as always with the lazy daisy, and then coming back up where your thread is coming out of. And then once that bead is secure, now you're going to go ahead and go back in keeping your needle parallel with your bottom lotus leaf, of course. And that way, when you're slowly pulling the daisy, just make sure that it's going underneath that bead on both sides. So again, put on a bead, and then we need to make that bead stable, so we're going to go in, and we're just working through the fabric and the batting, and come back out. Just slowly pull everything. Okay, make sure that bead's in place. The other thing to think about is the spacing of your beads. You know, so once you've got that bead on, go back into the base of it and come the distance of these two beads. You know, you don't want to come too close, otherwise your beads get too bunched up looking. Okay. Make sure that your petal threads are going under that bead. Pop another bead on. And then before you go any further, just make sure that those beads are going to be spaced pretty evenly. You know, eye it up. I don't measure or anything. I just, if I think I'm going to notice it later, then I'll redo it. Okay, so I eye that up. Now we're going to secure that bead, coming up through the top of that daisy petal. Then down. And again, remember your spacing of your beads and working parallel to that lotus leaf. And if you're using this sparkly thread with lots of different threads, it can be a little tricky, so just go really slow and be patient. Back down into that lazy daisy, staying parallel with my lotus leaf, reminding myself of the spacing here. And then I'm going to pop that leaf, that bead just a little closer to my leaf. I want to start sort of angling up, and it looks like I might have just room for maybe one more, maybe two if I'm really, really lucky. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is my 6th one. And I am going to try to get that 7th one in there. I like things in odd numbers. I'm trying to kind of get to that seam line, so I don't have too much left, but I'm going to try it. I think I can do it. Okay, one more. Making sure my threads are going, and then just kind of pull up your beads, just play with it a little bit, get them all arranged till you like them. And then one last bead, and basically you can just end it here, you know, just kind of come down here and then pull it to the back and then knot it. I know you guys all know how to do this, but basically when I don't have very much thread left, I'll take you make a little arc, go through the loop, pull it tight, and just weave it in. And then cut it. So do that 7 more times, so all the way around your mandala. And let's just see what that looks like on the front. Yeah, that looks good. All right, so in between the big lotus and the little lotus, I want to work a little running stitch and then just a simple little satin stitch extra leaf coming out. So I'm using yarn C, which is the size 5 pearl cotton we did our fairy wings with. I know some of you are having a little bit of trouble with those fairy wings. Those fairy wings are a bugger, I know. They're cute, they're worth knowing how to do, worth practicing. But you should have enough left over to be able to work this little embroidery piece. So all I'm going to do is start at this line. Of course, you could go earlier if you want to, it's fine. Some of you, I know your lotus leaves are a little closer together than mine, so that may not work. I'm going to start here just because I ended here and I think that might look neat. I don't know, I might go back in later and do something. Who knows? And again, just thinking 1/8 inch, 1/8 inch. We're doing a running stitch, very similar to what we did to hand quilt this. But this will show up a little bit more, of course, because this is a size 5 pearl cotton, and I'm running parallel to this leaf, and I'm just going to I'm going to stop at the point of that leaf. And let's see, so 1/8 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like I'll probably get 8. Yeah, 8 will take me to that tip, and then I'll just kind of come out here and exit out where I'm kind of close to that tip there. That's fine. Okay, and if you've pulled your thread too much so that you've got gathers, just take your background and just sort of pull it a little bit. So I'm going to work a satin stitch, sort of a modified satin stitch. A lot of times in a satin stitch you would outline your, you'd make a line and you'd outline it and then you'd work on the outside of those lines. There's lots of different ways you can do it, but this is such an easy one. We're just going to eye it up. So following this line here, I'm going to work a line that's about 1/2 of an inch. And then I'm going to come back out right at the tip, right next to where I'm coming out of. And maybe a little bit above it. So can you kind of see I'm wanting to angle it. I'm just doing a little leaf here. So I'm going to stop. I want to lie this next line right next to this original one, but I want to fall short because I want this to be the longest line. So I'm just going to come in just under it, and then here right alongside where I'm coming out of, and then just above it. And we're just going to do 3 little satin stitches. And normally you would do satin stitch with a very fine floss, maybe 1 or 2 threads of silk or cotton or something, so it looks really sheeny and shiny, but we're just doing a little modified action. And that's our 3rd one. And then on this side, you're just basically going to match that up. So come just on this side and just barely above that center line. And just keep your needle really, really close so you don't have any space. This is really what we're going for. Okay, and then just come out maybe 1/8 of an inch away from that original tip, your line here, and then pop in another bead. And I'm going to use the same bead as I've got going here just to bring some continuity. Insert it right at the tip. And there you've got a little satin stitch leaf there. All right, so do that all the way. And the nice thing about this too is if you're experiencing some wavy in the middle, which I am because we've worked so hard in the corners, so of course we've got, some waviness here. The more stitching we do in here, the flatter this is going to lay. So if by the time you get around and you find, maybe you've still got a little bit wave in here, you want to accentuate some more places of your lotus, of course, work as much as you want to. Okay, so let's kind of get some details in the middle here, and right on the other side of this lotus tip. What I'm using is 1 strand of my E and 1 strand of my F floss, and we're just going to work that pistol stitch 3 times on either side here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Your thread goes under the needle and hold that in place until you pull it through. We're just going to come up, maybe 1 inch or so. Then I want the next stem to look like it's coming from the line I just did, so just really close to where it's sitting. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold that in place. And then let's work a third one just to get just one more little detail in here. One, two, three, four. Hold that in place. And then I think what I'm going to do is stick a bead right at the top of this lotus. Probably the same bead that I'm using through here. This is such a cool color. I really love it. Of course, you can use a crystal, whatever you want to do. French knot even if you don't want to do beads. And so once you have that done, you kind of want to look at it and see if you want any more details. So for me, these leaves still kind of seem floating. It's not a big deal. I kind of like it because it's abstract. But I think what I'm going to do is take these beads here, put one here, and then maybe two here. Just to see what I have room for. This one looks like it's a little closer. Maybe just one. And I think that would be kind of cool. Just sort of bring it all together. Let's see what that looks like. Might be a huge difference. It's amazing how the littlest little stitch that you do makes all the difference in the world. Yeah, all the difference. And, you know, I'm kind of even thinking, I really like the way that these beads are lined up on either side of this cord. So it may be that I do them all the way down. In fact, why don't I just go ahead and do that? Let's just see what that looks like. And if you're thinking about doing something like that, just make sure that you're always going either up and down with your thread or left and right so that your beads are facing the same way. So I've started left and right, so I'm going to continue to go left and right. So let's see. Or right and left, it doesn't matter. Either up or down or right and left. And of course, this is only if you have that space. I know some of your tips are right up above that leaf, so you may just want to pop one bead in there, which would be just lovely. I'm just trying to sort of fill some space so that my lotus flower looks as detailed as my corners. You know, I don't want to leave it too bare, or it just won't look as consistent with the rest of the piece. And I think here, rather than do one on either side of the oak leaf, maybe I'll just do one right at the tip. So it looks like I've got 8. And I may go back with another piece of thread and just get those in there better. They're kind of wobbly because I've only done the one. Sort of designing on the fly here. Let's put one little bead. Just at the base of that. And I just feel like that lotus will jump out a little bit more with that. Yeah, I like that. Plus, you know, the other thing too is that my line here was so light. It wasn't a great contrast to the background. So if you're finding that, you know, yours is contrasty enough and you don't want to add these extra beads, of course, that's totally fine. Your decision. So I'm going to go ahead and work that all the way around and we'll come back and see what it looks like. And then as you can see, I added another flower, another sort of satin stitch flower. I just felt like maybe mine wasn't quite as prominent as I wanted it. So I just, from the stem, worked 4 more stitches and then put in another flower just so that the eye kind of goes there as well. So I'm happy with that. So next week, we are going to talk about your finishing options. You know, I know some people have talked about doing a pillow. Maybe this is your wall hanging, and you know, maybe it's a quilt block, and I'll show you what to do there. I also want to let you know how I came to create this design on my iPad, and also another option, how you could maybe make something like this or design something like this if you don't have an iPad or if you're not comfortable drawing on yours. That will make your piece truly unplugged. You didn't even use any technology to design your mandala or your piece or whatever it is that you want to do. But until then, have a wonderful week, and I cannot wait to see your finished mandalas come through. Keep sending your photos. Send me your finished front, even if you haven't decided what you're going to do with it, just send me the finished front. I'll crop it and make it website ready, and we will have a wonderful online art show that we can all enjoy together. Thank you so much.